Hello and welcome to the Music Survival Guide, the independent musician's guide on how to survive in the music industry. My name's Phil, a mixing and mastering engineer with Vortis Sound Studios. Good day to you, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is that you're listening, or even good night, depending on, when you're listening. I've got another interview this week, and this time it's with the Earl Collective, or three-quarters of them, specifically with Will, Zach, and Katie. It's a really, really good chat, all about all sorts of things. There's a lot talked about creativity and moving over to a new form of production, mostly online, whilst in lockdown. It's a really insightful chat, loads to take away. Remember that if you really enjoyed this interview, then a review, wherever you're listening, would be really appreciated. The Music Survival Guide community is always open and ready on Facebook for you to join if you'd like. And if you find there's takeaways that you're really interested in and you want to explore with your band, why not share it with them? Let them have a listen, see what they think. Anyway, I'm not going to waste any more time. Off we go. So I'm joined today by Katie, Will and Zach of the Earl Grey Collective. How are you all?
We're doing good, I think.
Yes, collectively. Well.
A big okay.
A big okay, other than hemmed in. Going crazy.
Hemmed in, that's a good description. So I guess a good place to start is, how did you all get into music? But then also, how did the band get together?
Well, Will and I first met at uni, which was the start of any band-related stuff, I guess. We'd all been into music before that. But yeah, Will and I think the first day of uni, we ended up sitting next to each other, didn't we, on our first lecture? And then pretty soon after, you were like, I think you heard our names in the register or whatever called, and you just suddenly went to me, Earl Grey. I was like, what? And then I finally twigged that it was both our surnames, and I thought, oh my God, this is incredible. So he basically said, we either got to get married or join a band, and you can guess what happened in the end. But, long story short. And then we met Zach. I think we left uni. So a couple of the guys who used to play in the band were ending up doing other stuff. And then, Will, you said, I know a pretty darn great guitarist.
Yeah.
Shall we give him a go? So
sadly, that guy couldn't make it to the rehearsal, so they opted
for
me instead.
And I hadn't realised I'd met you already, hadn't I? Because Will and I used to live with each other.
Gosh, and I forgot that.
Yeah, Will would work, like I'd be out working during placement during the day, and sometimes you were at home working. I was like, I'll just use my room because I had
Yeah, actually we were in your room, weren't we?
Yeah, and I even met Zach, and he'd been in my room recording guitar, and then it was only after our first practice together, and Will was like, you do know you've met Zach before. Yeah, and here we are.
Yeah.
And then Alex came on soon after that through you, Zach, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I think originally I had come to the first practice with it in mind that I'd play bass, I think, with Earl Grey.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so my first couple rehearsals where we were just trying to work out whether I was an okay fit for the band, I was playing bass, which was good fun. But then eventually I think Will was just like, oh, maybe that it'd be great if you could like try out on electric instead. And then we obviously then decided to do that, and then needed to find a bassist. And I'd known Alex a little bit, not for that long, but for a little bit through some church connections, and had heard him play, and was like, I think there's this guy called Alex who's like a really seriously good bassist. Like, I think it would be great to ask him if he wanted to come along and see kind of how you fit with the band, and then the rest
is history. Go on, say it.
The cliche thing everyone wants to say but doesn't really want to say.
The rest happened.
The rest happened, and now we're here. Skip.
Huzzah. So in your first few rehearsals, did you start with cover songs, or were you immediately writing stuff? How did that kind of look at the beginning?
I mean, I think I'm never, I was going to say this, it sounds bad to say it, I've always wanted to play my own music rather than play other people's music, just because I love to write and create. And so I think we've always kind of gone from the start, that place of we're going to play all our bass, as much as our own stuff as we can from the very get-go, I think, haven't we? Every now and then we've done covers, we've done bits and bobs, but it's been pretty solidly Earl Grey stuff.
Yeah, I think I was playing in a covers band at the time when I met you, Will, and the opportunity to play originals was exactly what I wanted, basically, to get out of the covers. But do you remember the first song you ever sent me?
Me?
Yeah.
No, no.
It was called Mind Trash.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that.
Just suddenly
Yeah.
had a memory of it. But,
You know, I was thinking about that today, actually. Oh, yeah. I think I was thinking about it was there was like a mad saxophone and guitar solo
yeah, I think so.
battle off in the middle of it.
I think you should resurrect it.
Yeah, wow, quite right.
I've got it somewhere.
Maybe that can be one of our goals for the next 6 months to a year, is to resurrect that song.
Resurrect the song, bring it back in.
Get some saxophone on it. Away you go. So how do you typically write songs? Put them together in the rehearsal room, which I know may not be happening right now, or do you kind of do it individually? What's your approach to that like?
Well, it used to be a rehearsal room, very much so. I think we would, well, it tends to stem from you'll write something, we'll get in a rehearsal room, jam it out, and something event, and maybe take her home, a guide track of yours, jam it, come back together. But since basically COVID and lockdown, when we were first doing a few covers at the start of it, that sort of led to a new process of Will sending across a guide track, us all individually recording our stuff and throwing ideas at it. And then I tend to come to me probably to then accumulate it all together and mix it. And then, recently with our writing, I think, Will, was it you suggested maybe we should, I mean, we haven't got much of an option, but you were like, maybe we should try a similar process. And I think we probably all agree, actually, it's working pretty well and sort of really pushing us in different places creatively.
It's been one of the real joys, I think, of just being part of the band, has been realizing that all of us, to some degree, like I think some people more than others, like I'm definitely in the others category, but we've all got experience and ability at home to be able to record and write stuff and get kind of creative with things. And I think, it's been a really fun thing actually this year. Like, although this year's not be, well, I say this year, last year wasn't like a brilliant year for lots of things with music industry. Actually, it's been really fun to be able to kind of get some tracks on Google Drive, download it, and be like, okay, what can we do? Let's experiment with some sounds. Let's have some fun. Let's kind of, and that's been a really great recording kind of writings or arranging process, I think, for all of us. And I feel like we've learned quite a lot actually about how to sort of shape and arrange together and stuff, which has been good. Yeah,
I was going to say, I think it definitely wasn't like the direction we would have gone in. I think had this not happened, but I'm really glad that it has, because I think it's kind of given us, I was just saying a bit earlier, it's given us all a little bit more space to be creative. I think it is fun being in a room and the kind of intensity of, in this moment, what we're going to come up with. But there's also a place for kind of being able to, give breadth and space to think about ideas and try things and just be like, or gosh, I tried that and that really didn't work. And no one else has to hear it because I'm just deleting the take. There's that kind of freedom almost to just, mess about a bit. And I think we've really kind of seen, obviously, Zach's kind of creativity come out a bit more, and Katie's production ideas kind of going a bit more wacky and a bit more crazy, and doing your own stuff. Because since you got a synth now, got your Juno.
So you just paused. I didn't hear any of your obviously compliments to me, but
just give an answer that you think would be appropriate.
Yes.
For
what do you think I would say? Yeah, what do you think I was saying, and then answer that.
You said something about getting my new sieve, so that's all I heard. Yeah, I've been playing with that a lot. It's my new baby. As she's on. You guys, to be fair, a good thing about us not being in rehearsal space is you don't have to succumb to me coming in since I've been learning piano and showing you the next part of Bohemian Rhapsody that I've learned every week. But I'll do it over the call later.
Yeah.
A treat to look forward to. Do you think it's preferable to do it that way, doing it kind of online and separately? Or given the choice, would you genuinely go, actually, let's go back to the rehearsal room and put together songs that way? Or maybe a blend of the two?
I'd say blend.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. There's something about, I think before, it sounds a bit like sentimental, but like before joining Earl Grey, like it'd been quite a while actually since I'd like played in a band. Like I'd been involved with lots of music, but I hadn't really been involved with like a band where we're consciously kind of trying to write and create stuff and record and gig for a good few years. One of the incredible things that I really found so good about being part of Earl Grey was that it was all about kind of being together and playing music together. And like rehearsals, they can be tiring, and you have to book studio space and things like that. But actually, there's just something that you can't replace about like being in a room with other musicians. And so I think I agree with you, Katie. Like, I think we would definitely want to keep going with kind of being in a room and working stuff out, because that's often where the really fun improv moments happen, and you're like, what did we just play? Like, let's do that again. And I'm like, I can't do it again, I just made something. But like, there's something about that kind of special, but also actually having done this last year of kind of doing it remotely, I think there's real value in that as well, because like Will says, it gives you space to kind of create in your own, a bit more like unrushed at home kind of thing. And
I feel like when we're jamming live, there's so much energy and it can be a lot of fun, but it can sometimes maybe lead to songs that are a bit more chaotic, and not everything has to be organized, but like less clear. Whereas I found when we've taken them home, we'll throw so much at them, but then from the start we can really start thinking, actually, is that structure right? Is that, and getting in there a lot earlier in the process. And I think you've this time very much kind of not let it get too far down the line of your writing process before you're giving it to us, so that we're actually fairly early in the process getting ideas down, so that you don't, I guess, get too attached to something that we then come along and go, now you should switch it or cut out that verse or something.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a bit of a conscious effort. I mean, I don't know. I did a fair bit, because I demoed out quite a few of the newer stuff, but I definitely think I'm holding it lighter. I think with all my creative projects at the moment, actually, I'm holding it lighter. I think beforehand I might have had more of a solid creative vision of what I was like, this is what it kind of needs to sound like. Whereas I think I'm moving into kind of a mindset of enjoying other people's creative ideas and their spice that they're adding to something that I've put in, and letting that happen, I think, is good. And trying not to be like, oh, it should end up like the way I want it to. So I'm trying to make a conscious decision to that, because I'm definitely quite a kind of like, once I get my head down in it, I'm like, oh, this is what it should be like. And whereas actually, that's the reality of life. That's not true. We all have different tastes and different opinions, and I think that's one of the joys of this experience of writing together, is getting to hear people. Because I think often we can be in a practice room, and I know this happens. Katie would be like, oh, I want it to sound like this, and it's that communication part where it's like, I haven't fully understood what she means, and then it's really hard for me to get it in my head what it is. Whereas I think this part allows people to fully develop what they mean and creatively want to see. So then we get to see the fullness of people's creative ideas, which I think is definitely been really beneficial. So I'd definitely go for the hybrid. And I think it's kind of like, it's what you do naturally as well. You'd play, and then you'd go away, and you'd be thinking in your head like, oh, like, yeah, I should try this, or I'm thinking about this, or and you're thinking about it outside, and you're thinking about it inside the rehearsal as well. So yeah.
So moving over back to kind of the story of how the band came to be, if I can call it that. So you wrote some tunes, and then you had your first gig at some point. So what was your first gig like? Was it a good experience? Was it pretty bad? What was it like?
We played it was a pub called, I think it was Gladstone Arms, I think.
Yeah.
Is it
Good memory.
Bermondsey?
Yeah, good memory.
And yeah, it was a good, like, it was funny because it was quite a small pub, like not a massive kind of venue. I can't from a memory, like I don't think the PA was like, there's no like monitors or anything like that. It was kind of like you got some front of house speakers, and
I remember it just raining and being like in the car outside trying to quickly get drums in, and then we're in and being kept told, no, you need to push back a bit, and I think I was right up against the wall, and it was fun. And like I think we specifically found this sort of gig offer, I guess, as such, and it felt we told a couple of really close friends and family, but I think we really wanted it as a no pressure first kind of gig as the current four of us, and it was just it was a lot of fun, really, I think, and it was so good to just still be playing the songs. And
I think the two things I remember is I remember there being really good food, I remember really enjoying the food, and I remember it being really cramped. It was so tight.
Wasn't it Jess's hen do that day?
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, it was Jess's head do. My parents, so my family had come up as well. So my dad was there, and I think my now brother-in-law, he was there as well.
My nan was
your
there.
nan
She's in
was
her
there.
70s, and it was the first time my nan had seen me like play any kind of music for quite a long time. And she's a wonderful woman, but she doesn't have much of a filter. And she just like hearing some of her like comments afterwards was hilarious. But she was very kind and very positive about what we had done.
Go on, Zach. Quote.
Because she might listen to this one day. I don't know.
I can edit out the quotes. I'm happy to do that.
No, it's fine. She was overwhelmingly positive, but just says things in a way that I probably wouldn't phrase them sometimes.
But it was definitely a lot of fun, I think. And I think the main thing as well, I felt like after playing it, I was like, yeah, like this is really fun. Like this is a great outfit. This is a great band. I'm really excited to be here. I think that was one of my overwhelming like feelings afterwards, was just excited.
Yeah, I think because we wanted to play, we kind of set a rough bucket list ages ago to do a gig in London, because originally the band was just kind of a fun uni project that we'd play at the uni gigs, but we were just, I guess, developing sounds at that time. And so it was around that placement year, so a year before we graduated, we started thinking, yeah, we both really want to take this further and play a gig in London sometime. So it felt like a really kind of long time coming, but also just, super exciting then when we finally did that with Zach and Alex. And I think we both looked at each other and were like, this is exciting, this is going to be fun.
A confirming moment for you all, it sounds like. So that sounds like it was an incredibly positive experience, to be honest. And I've heard over different podcasts, lots of people talk about their first gig being a very negative experience for some. So have you had any kind of nightmare gigs, or has it all been plain sailing?
We were laughing a lot about this beforehand, before we got on. It's I think we haven't had any like shocking gigs, like nothing that's been really bad, but we've had some interesting gigs, I think. Definitely.
Interesting being the key word.
The key word, interesting. So the one, I mean, I think we can go around and share a few, but my one which I found the most interesting is one where we turned up to a venue, and it was half nightclub, half gig, and it was pretty early on in our career, if you could call it that, and we didn't have that many songs. So the songs we had, and one of them's like really down, like Instant Rush. It's very like piano led for the first verse. It's just intimate, and I was in the zone, and I was counting off, and I started, and then like I get this other just like fall to the floor, like boom, 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 kind of going through this, like, and I'm just trying to keep tempo, keep time. It was an absolute nightmare. My voice was just like destroyed from like a cough that I had, and it was
It's such a funny moment as well, because there's like a pause. Like I think the song's in 4/4, but there's a pause where we like count for 6 before we all then like it's like a held like piano chord or something, and then we all drop in together, like all like right on the one. But when you're trying to count that 6, when you've also got a 4 to the floor like club beat going on in the background, I'm just like, I have no idea where we are. So I think I just remember like looking around at Alex, who's normally the person I look to when I'm waiting for like cues on timings and stuff, because he's on the ball with that, all that kind of stuff. Like I'm just like looking at Alex, being like, when is it? And I think thankfully we just managed to pull it together, and Katie and Alex were on it at least, and I was struggling along.
So that was my one anyway. There are some others.
What about you, Katie? Have you got any?
I think, again, as you said, I think it's just small, interesting things that happen. And there's sometimes you can be waiting quite a while, say, and there'll be a lot of, when you're first doing showcases and stuff, there's multiple bands in a night. And I swear they always put on too many bands for a night. And there's been times when we're waiting so long and you're kind of looking around the room and just hoping, we'd be lucky we'd be put in the headline slot or something, but you're like, people are going to want to go to bed soon. And it's getting later and later. But there was one other we mentioned, which wasn't actually, it was one of probably our best gigs. We love the Bedford. It's super close for us. And I think we've always had really good fun playing shows there. But I think, was it the most recent one when the sound guy, let's say he was just like stuck on the toilet somewhere, and we poor guy was basically not in a good shape, and so someone basically came along and whoever was comparing that night, like, I'm really sorry, but, and then our good friend George came to the rescue. He's like live soundy. He suddenly pops up and you could see the glint in his eye, thinking, yes, this is my moment. And he came. He did the sound, didn't he? In the end,
Yeah.
Hey,
Did he?
saved the day.
I think the guy came back at some point. Yeah, because I think George was excited about getting paid a little bit and an extra beer, but not sure he got one in the end.
But good to know. Good to know that he's there.
Yeah. We had a show once, which was hilarious, when it was similar to what Katie was mentioning about the sort of showcases where there's loads of acts, like too many really, and you get kind of excited because you've managed to get along a decent amount of people and they're all there to see you, but it's like a weeknight and you're wanting to not be too late on because you're just aware that most people have got to get to work the next day. And there was this one actor who was on before us it was, you don't want to badmouth anyone, but like it was the very, very long songs, like quite slow, almost like a sort of political poetry kind of lyrics, and you could tell the crowd was just getting smaller and smaller.
The acoustics did not help them, let's say.
Yeah, it wasn't fair due to, like, he spent time writing his songs and stuff, but it just was quite a gig killer, really. It kind of like destroyed the crowd a little bit. And my dad, who's a very lovely man but passionate about kind of us, like, and having a chance to play, he just like started heckling from the crowd, and he started like being like, get on with it, just get on. And it was the funniest thing because I don't think anyone expected my dad to be the first person to heckle at a gig, but I think he was just like, come on, like, you're killing the show.
I mean, I think to give Dean some, respect, he'd gone past his allotted time, like a lot. So it's not like it was just, he didn't like the music. He was like, get off. It was like, respect other artists. Come on. But yeah, I remember being there and just being like,
Will's bedtime is at like 9:30, so we were struggling at this point.
I was struggling. I was like, am I going to be awake?
You're right in saying that, especially at like showcase gigs, playing to your allotted time is super important, especially if you want to be invited back ever again. So how do you do that? Do you plan a specific set that you've rehearsed and you go, this is a, say, 20-minute set that we know fits into this time, or do you freewheel it a bit more?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty planned. We plan our set pretty much. I mean, yeah, I think it's pretty planned. Usually we have one extra that we can cut, and usually I'll look at the promoter or the sound person and be like, is there extra? We've got one more. I'll look at them and be like, is there time for one more? And we'll go on that. If they say yeah, then yeah. But yeah, usually we've timed it pretty much so it's not too much over if we do go over. Yeah, I do think it's important. It is key because it's just not nice if everyone does it and everyone's been there. You're the last act and everyone's gone over by 5 minutes, and then it's half an hour later, and it's.
We've had that before, where we've been on at the end and then they've cut our set, and you're like, well, we've been put on, very gratefully as the headline for this. So yeah, I think that's something we learned with the showcases, was actually second to last is always best. But yeah, that can be a bit of a kick in the teeth when you're waiting a long time and then your set has to get cut because of a curfew, understandably. But it's a bit.
So not a great place to be when you're there.
Other than that, good though.
I think another really important part of gigging is having a really efficient setup and set down, because it's the thing that can really hamper a lot of bands. Is they kind of get to the end of the gig and go, great, let's pack away, and then everyone sort of panics a bit and no one quite knows what to do. So have you got like an efficient pack down? Have you organised that, or do you just kind of grab whatever needs to be grabbed?
That's a really good question. Like Alex is on bass. Like, he's a kind of like no pedals kind of guy. He's just like, I've got a great bass. I know how to use it. Like, very happy to use like a house bass amp if there's one.
Most easygoing guy.
So yeah, so he's like, Alex is like super quick, just like chuck his like call up his cable, chuck his bass in this case, and he's done. I guess obviously Katie, if you're on drums, like most often on some venues, it's a house kit, and then you've got breakables and stuff. So you're I think you're pretty
Yeah, I
efficient.
take the long time.
You take the longest.
But yeah, efficient. I think what we did actually in the early days of the band, I got a new sample pad and I was getting really excited about it. So Will and I started incorporating it into stuff, and then we played one festival show and I forgot the power supply, and I was like, I am never using electronics again. And we tried the OP1 on that gig as well. It was a nightmare. And then so ever since, we've been quite loath to ever. Oh, that was the time Will used my MIDI keyboard. That was a bad gig. That was pre this setup. I mean, great, like fun festival, but what was it? The A, the B, and the G in two of your octaves in the middle of the keyboard.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was C, yeah, it was C, G, yeah, C, G, and A, and a lot of some of the songs were in the key of C. So that's pretty crucial. It was the word. Oh, it was so bad.
Yeah, that was the one I forgot the power supply as well. But yeah, so we hadn't done that for ages, and then since this whole business of being at home and playing about with songs, I'm getting scared that we're going to start getting back into
I think we're going
SPD
to
territory and OP1 and stuff, which I'm excited about, but I think we'll be a bit more prepared now.
Yeah, I think we got pretty good at like setting up and packing up. We're not like, we haven't got loads and loads of channels and stuff really, for a 4-piece.
We're pretty average 4-piece, I think. We don't. It's nothing extra in terms of setup.
Don't say that, Will.
But I think moving forward, like I think because of this process, like Katie says, of preparing a lot of the songs where we've got time to be creative with other instruments and other sounds and stuff, and we're talking about is there time in the future to bring in, is there someone else we could have with us who can cover some of the sounds which we've recorded in the studio but can't as a 4-piece kind of replicate live. So I imagine, I don't know, this is probably a conversation as we keep going out throughout this year and think about gigs again, but we're imagining that it could sort of expand and grow a bit more and sort of mix it up a bit more, have more sounds available to us in a live context as well, which I guess hopefully will sound brilliant, but also will probably add a little bit of time to set up and pack down.
Well, I think we found, didn't we, after sort of recording, so this time last year, just before lockdown, we had probably our last practice together, and that was just after we were in the mix stage of the second EP, and so we all had very much in our heads, we knew where those songs were sounding on record. And I remember coming back, rehearsing the songs, thinking we were about to have a gig that got cancelled, and I think we all looked at each other and were like, definitely feels like there's a few elements missing now, because of the productions we created. So I think that's the first time we felt that. So yeah, going forward, that's when we started the talk of how are we going to increase the rig. So yeah, our setup time might be becoming more, but hopefully it will take our live set to the next level. So
yeah, it's a difficult trade-off, isn't it? But it's worth thinking about for sure. So you mentioned recording. I think that's a great place to go next. What's your approach to recording? Do you go into the studio? Do you record yourselves? How do you do that?
It's definitely a hybrid, isn't it?
Yeah. What did we do for first EP was in this room, actually, the drums, wasn't it? Well,
yeah.
Yeah. So the first EP was very much,
I think it's evolving. It's evolved over time.
At home in different places. Second EP, we basically booked a few days in a studio that I work at here and there. And so basically the aim was to get
drums and bass.
I think originally we were quite optimistic of trying to do like 6 songs or something and do basically drums and bass. And then Zach and I, when we could, went into the studio to do guitars and then filled in the rest at mine. Will, you tend to do vocals and keys if it's not an actual piano at yours, then it all eventually comes to me and
that's the process.
Stuff filtered in eventually.
I'm not sure whether it will change for our next one. I think it will probably still be a hybrid. We'll still have elements which we do in the studio and then elements which we kind of either do beforehand or afterwards and kind of combine.
It's great as well to be able to have, you know, I think Katie and Will, with both of their sort of engineering experience and knowledge and skills. It's amazing that, even though we went into the studio for a bit of time, actually it's still that within the band we can sort of engineer it and capture it all. We're not kind of needing to hire someone else to do it, which is a really, really cool thing to be able to do, that sort of creative process, all from in every regard, like with mic choices and mic placements, and you know, which drum we're using at which point of the, you know, all those kind of little details that you kind of go into recording something. Like, we're able to make those decisions with people within the band, which is really cool.
A lot of your guitars were done in my bathroom, weren't they? I've just remembered. Yeah, quite very lucky to have an ensuite, and it's a perfect guitar booth, isn't it? So we usually stick your amp in there, put a few mics up, maybe one in the shower, and then the door closes just about over it, and then you play in my room basically, and then it works quite well.
It's great fun.
I remember when I first moved into that place, I was like, this is going to be great.
So Katie is hiring out her bathroom for anyone who wants to do guitar tracking.
Shut up, Sam.
Given the choice, in an ideal world, would you stay doing it that way, or would you go completely into the studio to do it? So I know there's the financial challenge that every band faces of doing it at home, doing it in the studio, that the studio just costs money. That's the hard bottom line of it, that every hour you're in there costs you money. So in a kind of completely ideal scenario, what would you do?
It would have to be the right studio, is my view. I think, you know, it would be a lot of fun to have, you know, let's say a scenario of we're doing an album, let's go down. I think possibly residential studio even, but then I recently was working with a band down in a really cool place, Devon, and we split it. It was a month's worth, but split into 2-week sections with a week in between. And that, I think, worked really well. And then after that, they were continuing to do odd bits elsewhere. But I think that would be a lot of fun. But there are pros and cons to all of these, I think. Don't know what you guys think.
I think everyone, I don't know, when you grow up kind of learning an instrument and playing in bands, and you start thinking about recording your own music, there's almost like this sort of dream, this ideal, like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if we could spend like 2 months in a studio and we go in with nothing, and then we write, and we spend just like every day writing and creating. At the end, we have an album. And there's definitely this what's the word, sort of almost like a romantic idea of studio time, and I think there is definitely something in that. And I think I agree with Katie, like it'd be great to be able to have that time and space in a studio to really make the most of the studio and the gear that they've got. And just, I guess it can help with performances when you're not like rushed. You're thinking, okay, we need to get this done in an hour. You got a little bit more flex to it. But actually, I think at the same time, I think we've learned that it can be done well when we're doing it remotely, or, you know, in Katie's bathroom, or, you know, I think there's definitely pros and cons of it. I think I would personally, I'd love just time away with Will, Alex, and Katie, like to go and stay somewhere and have that time together. I think that's really important for a band and helps with the creativity when you're just hanging out and spending, you know, eat breakfast together, and then you head over to the control room and you work out what you're doing. And but I'm probably the least technical. I know the least technically about what you could really get out of a studio and the difference that would make. But I know Will and Katie have probably got more ideas about that technically.
I think personally, if we did that, but I think the only thing I found, and I guess we're sort of trying to separate, like I love producing, engineering, and all of that, but I find when you're so deeply involved in a project, sometimes it's good to be able to step back from that. So I think we would only probably do that when we really could have, say, at least someone else helping with the engineering, or even a third party co-producer or something, would, I think, really open that door as such. But again, sort of do with different circumstances and stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm so conflicted in myself between the kind of the best way to do it, because I think definitely like I would love to just like box it off and be like 2 weeks in the studio. That's everything. We're going to do it then, and we give it to someone else, and then in 2 months' time we have a finished product, and that's it. Whereas this, the process we have in the moment is like, oh, maybe I could add this. What about this sound?
I got you toy.
It is an iterative process, which is great and it's really cool, but it's just forever. There's a when is art finished? It's never finished. It's just abandoned kind of process of just like, I just have to give up. And that definitely happened to me on the last EP. Like towards the end, Katie would send over things and I'd just be like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, you get no reply from Will at one point.
I'm like, I just don't care. You can put it out now, and I'm done, like, I'm happy. Just there's this kind of like continue. I just hit my threshold, But at the same time, I would definitely, I ideally would like a recording studio, official studio in my house. So that would be the ideal, with an engineer that I could hire in to sit and do it all. So that would be the ideal thing in the back garden. A little bit of space, so it's it's not quite in the house. I'm sure like Coldplay or something have something like that where you've got professional grade studio.
Good luck doing that in London. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Phil, if you want to invest in a studio house, we'll chip in together and buy somewhere big enough.
Again, I'm in London. I don't know if that's ever going to be possible. So there we go. So changing the subject quite a bit, how's the band managed? So is there kind of one person in the band who is quote unquote in charge, or do you share out tasks? Is it a democracy or an autocracy? I don't know if that's the right word.
It's definitely a democracy, but I think when we all, quite early on actually, as the four of us, slightly worked out roles, didn't we? Rough roles. We all end up crossing over. But yes, I think initially it was, you guys correct me, I've probably forgotten now. Roughly, Zach, you tend to look after social media stuff and a lot of pictures and things. Will, I'd say, is on the whole more the managerial side, but I guess again we all kind of hop in sometimes, when other people are busy. But yeah, Will, you tend to sort out a lot of the getting the songs actually out there and stuff like that. And then technically I tend to end up on music tech side. And then Alex's, what was it Alex said?
Networking.
Networking.
Alex is probably the one of us who has the least amount of time. He actually has a proper full-time job. So,
it's like more than full-time.
Yeah, right? It's more than full-time.
Crazy hours, yeah.
So his job is to come up and kill it on the bass, which he does every time perfectly. So
we joke that like he's got, because Alex is from Brisbane in Australia, and so we always joke that he's kind of going to be our like Australian connection. So like if we ever get to the point where anyone wants to invite us over to Australia, hopefully it'll be through Alex's kind of networking connections in Australia.
Yeah, no, that's very true. The three of us are freelance, but Alex actually has a full-time job, so yeah, we let him off. He comes on and slays the bass every time, so it's like, that's all we need.
Can't ask for more than that, I guess. So what would you say is the biggest success of the band so far? And this might be a different answer for everyone. It might be a specific like moment, or it might be just something a bit bigger.
I mean, we put out our second EP in 2020. Kind of put it out as, we had sort of three singles, and then sort of released it as an EP together with a fourth track as well.
Which was also a single.
Which was also a single, but just the process of that sort of realized, I think when it sort of all finally had all come out, and we'd had a video with it, one of the tracks as well, and artwork had all been done, and when it was kind of all out there in the world, I know for me that was like a real like, oh wow, like this is great, like this has been a really hard year, for so many reasons, but to be able to still put out a whole EP that I think we were really like pleased with, really proud of it, and yeah, just we really enjoyed the music that we were able to create together and put out, and just generally speaking, like a really positive response to people who'd listened to it, and seeing different people listen to it around the world as well. It was just it's like, wow, that was a moment, just been like, wow, this is really great. Like, well done, guys. We did this thing, and it turned out really well. I think that, yeah, for me, that's been a big big, I guess, success if you want to, if you want to call it a success, but like even just personally for us, that was like almost like a personal, like, we did this together. This is really cool. That's special.
Yeah, I think just similar to me, just proud of the music that we made. Really, I think for me that's a big success. I remember listening. I was listening back to one of the tracks. I think it was "Love It Flows," and I'm not an emotional man, but almost being brought to tears, just being like, oh, this is so what I wanted to make, like music that moves and that's good for the heart, good for the soul, and so I think just really proud of the music we've made, and I think that's a big that it's kind of got our stamp on it, and that people enjoy it. I think that's for me the band as what we've done is create something which is I'd say is beautiful. Obviously I would, because I'm part of writing it, but
you hit on that one actually, because I think we all probably, out of anything we've ever written, we're super proud of this. And I think similarly to Will, I don't know, like the first EP, I loved and would listen through at the start, but this one actually is what you should feel with any music you release. I have sat down and listened through it quite a lot, actually, more than anything I've ever created. And Raindrops, I remember listening to when Andy sent back one of the mixes to that, listening to it in the car, and actually feeling. I will probably tell you, I wouldn't say I was the most emotional person, but I certainly felt quite emotional listening to that. Specifically, we did mention, overhaul, that probably is a highlight. But I think we also, I guess, had a highlight gig for us was supporting Dutch Kid. It's getting on for a year and a half now, isn't it? Which is friends through you, Zach, and that was at Camden Assembly, and that was just, I know we were getting to that stage of wanting to move away from the showcases and start support shows and headlines, and that show was just really good, full crowd, like especially being the support act. We had a really nicely packed room. A lot of friends came along, and that was a lot of fun. I think a bucket list thing for me this year was, for the band, like a target, was to start getting on radio. And we had Radio X play this year. So, they're a bit less emotionally sort of proud things, but it was a really nice target to see that this EP has felt like a step up from the last one. And that was our big aim with it, really. We weren't expecting to take over the world or anything, but we wanted to make progress with it. And I think we did. And that's,
The thing I always say to bands is, with every release, be that a single or an album or an EP, as long as it is quote unquote better than the one before, whatever you mean by better, if that's in terms of who's listening to it or getting radio play or getting gigs and things like that, as long as it is better, that is a win. It doesn't have to go from nothing to taking over the world. It just has to be better than the one before.
I think that's what we strive. Like each release, we've talked about future stuff and thought, well, what is the step up we want in this, and roughly set goals and stuff. And I think we achieved quite a few of the goals that we set out for with the last EP. So that was a success.
So looking to the future, what would be your goals for the next 6 months to a year, roughly? Gigging, maybe?
Yeah.
Gigging. I wish.
Gigging.
there is a likelihood that we could gig this year, hopefully.
Yeah, at some point.
That's the plus of not being an arena sellout band, you see.
Could come back earlier than some.
Yeah, and I think we've got, started the process writing the next whatever it is it's going to be, EP, singles, I don't know what we'll put out, but I think the process of just writing and seeing what happens next is exciting. Some of the stuff that we're kind of working on, and
I certainly feel super excited about the stuff we're doing at the moment.
Yeah, just feels like we're kind of forming into. It's different from our old stuff, but like still us and honing our sound and stuff like that, which is cool. So that's probably stuff to look out for. I personally would love to do a Christmas EP. I don't know.
Just been told that today.
I dropped that on the band today.
You've got 11 months. You can do it.
Yeah, come on now.
I love Christmas music, so to be fair, I'm well up for that.
It's something we talked about. I think we had a band call a month or two ago, and we kind of mentioned the idea of trying to do more collab kind of things. I don't know whether we would say that's like an absolute goal. I don't think if we got to the end of 2021 and we hadn't done loads of collab stuff, that we'd be like gutted and disappointed in ourselves. But just even thinking about, you know, trying to work on a little bit of a video at the moment with a sort of an artistic friend a friend of mine, and trying to pull something together. And, you know, again, if we're, you know, bringing in someone else to kind of help cover some of the stuff live, like it feels like we're all really keen to kind of just, for the band, not just to be about the band in a weird way, but actually to be able to
cross art collaboration.
Yeah, like we're putting out this video, and it's Earl Grey Collective and this incredibly talented, you know, director or incredibly talented sort of short movie maker, or and just to be able to try and use what sort of platform we have as a band to actually promote other people and like do things together, I think is a really like just a sort of a healthy thing, which I think we're kind of looking forward to trying to do more maybe in the year ahead.
So to close out the podcast, I'd like to ask you what your favourite song is, or which song you'd like to play for the end of the show. So what would it be, and maybe why?
I mean, you added the why question. You really jumped in there and added a why. Yeah, I think we're going to go with Landslides. Yeah, just 'cause it's the first single that we released from this EP. It's just a lot of fun. It's just a great laugh. It's got some great solo moments, great moments you want to kind of dance around a little bit too. Fresh twist on disco. I think that's indie pop, fresh twist on disco. Those were the words thrown around. So yeah.
Big shout out to Jamie P with the string arrangement.
Yeah, big shout out to Jamie P.
In the winter months, it's nice to have something a bit of fun.
So this is Earl Grey Collective with Landslides. Guys, it's been great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Girl, I can help you. I can see it in your eyes, see it in your eyes. Girl, I'll let you shine through. There's a beauty in your soul ready to explode. Let me ignite you. You say you've heard it all before, knocking at your door, but let me tell you, I'm new. If you give me a landslide, girl, you make me break through. Well, you sink into my eyes, sinking like the light. Oh, you make my colors true. I never